السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد عليه أفضل الصلوات وأتم التسليم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. So thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure for me to be here today to share with you. This is an exciting program that Al-Khaadem initiated in collaboration with Relationary. My name is Ammar. I will be the speaker. I will be talking about a few things, and then Sheikh Hussain will be coming towards the end before the Q&A, and then we can have Q&A towards the end, inshallah. So just to introduce myself, I am a certified counselor. I've been doing counseling for a few years right now. And I've been doing coaching before that, and I was been in human development pretty much for about 15-20 years of my life. So I would like to encourage everybody to write down your questions, or you can feel free to interrupt me by raising your hand. If there's something that is not clear, more than happy to stop and elaborate more. So another name that I give for Q&A session is the customized elaboration. So that's when we dig deep to address certain people's needs and to make sure the point is referenced across. Okay, so today's agenda, mainly at the beginning, I will be talking generally about what is mental health. If you have a note and something to write with, it's not a bad idea to do that because I will be sharing some information maybe you didn't know before, and some information maybe you heard before, and this is inshallah a refresher. So in terms of what is mental health, I will be introducing the holistic understanding and the relationships between our body, our mind, our soul, our spirit, and how does all that relate to mental health. Then I will be talking about who are we at Relationary, what do we do, and who we are, and our approach. Then towards the end, I'll be talking about the mental health, about the mind, heart, and soul program that we have with Al-Khaadem. So this is an initiative from Al-Khaadem. It's collaboration between Al-Khaadem and Relationary. We call it Mind, Heart, and Soul. So it's a program. I will be going through it towards the end, and then we will tell you how to start this program. How do you take advantage of this opportunity? And after that, Sheikh Hussain will be joining us to talk for about 15 or so minutes, and then we will open for custom elaborations or Q&A. Sounds like a good plan? All right. So first of all, I would like you to clear your mind. Clear your mind from the last thing happened before you got here. Clear your mind from what you're going to do next after the talk. Just be present. Be here, be in the moment. This is going to help you to gain the most from this talk. The same thing for people online. I would like to invite them to clear their mind as well, to minimize distractions around them, and to enable themselves to focus. I strongly believe this is valuable information that I wish I had it when like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. All right, we start. Bismillah. First, I would like to start with the stigma around mental health. Do people see the slides online? Do they have that capability? They don't. All right. So it's very common, and I've done many talks about the disassociation of mental health relating to lack or weakness of faith. These two things are not dependent. They're separate from each other. But we often hear people say that so-and-so is depressed, therefore they're not strong in faith. Their iman is weak. They need to strengthen your iman. They tell them, just get over it. Believe in Allah. Just believe in qadar. Believe in that. But it's beyond that. This is like if you were to tell someone with diabetes, to tell them, oh, come on, have some sugar. Get over this not sugar business. It's all in your mind. You just need to take sugar. But it's actually a physical, I would say, a physical illness, or not as a strong health in terms of the diabetes. You would have some kind of condition, and depression, anxiety, a lot of things that we're going to be talking about today. I will show you some brain scans of people with depression and without depression, so we can settle and put this stigma to rest. We don't want to manage that or even to discuss it as much as we can. Some people say this is your struggle doesn't sound so serious. You're just sitting around doing nothing. You just need to move. You need to get out, do your homework, do your work, go to job, go do this, go do that. But it's actually crippling to go through the mental illnesses, or when you're not mentally well. Some people say that, oh, they're seeking attention. They're not really, there's nothing wrong with them. And I've had spoken with many medical doctors who had the child and the parent. They come to the doctor and the parent is telling the medical doctor, tell my child it's all in his head or in her head. There's nothing wrong with them. And the medical doctor, is well aware of mental health and mental illnesses, and therefore they educate the parent. To the medical professional's surprise is that this person, the father, is still not engaged in helping the child for mental health attention. So they label them, they judge them as lazy, rude, or weird. Why you're so dress up so weird? Why are you so rude to me, and or rude to that person, or rude to that person, or rude to your mom, rude to your dad, or rude to your children? A lot of these things are related to mental health. Now, it doesn't mean that person is rude. It doesn't mean that person is lazy. They need attention for their mental well-being. Some people say it's all in your mind. It's up to you if you want to change it. I've met many people who smoke cigarettes, and they argue with me that they can stop if they want to. I strongly disagree to that, because when it comes down to addiction, that's another mental health condition that we can say there's a dependency. So the addiction, it can be for smoking cigarettes or any other behavior. It could be eating chocolates, could be eating doodles. You go to Malacca just to get the real doodles, I guess. That would be an addiction, maybe. I really don't know. We need to assess that. We need to have like a doodle assessment to see if there is anything there. And also, many people say that physical health is more important. They say as long as I'm focusing on my physique and I'm able to move around and my body is in a specific shape, then mental illness is not as important, so therefore they don't focus on that. So this stigma, and it's important for me to start with that, when we judge people, when we label people, we tend to lose that connection with people, which is it's actually been empathizing with the person who is going through mental health difficulties or challenges. So we and many times we find people who are going through struggles, whether it is anxiety or depression, or also can be sleep or relationship related. They get into a bullying situation. They get bullied for what they are going through, and so this brings us really to the core of I'm planning to discuss with you. What are we made of? So I make sure that you guys don't fall asleep. It can be a bit cold here, so I need interactions. I don't know if you attended my talks. I don't just talk. I like to get some answers. So what are the things that we are made of? We're made out of water. Yes, we are created from water. That's true. But what are we made of? Water made us to be what? I'm sorry? Soil? Soil, so that's the creation. But what are we as a human being? What makes us a human being? What are the simple components? Many scholars, the Muslim scholars specifically, they had their opinions, and also the secular scholars, or you want to call them the Western scholars, they have their opinions as well. But subhanAllah, it's amazingly, they don't differ. The early scholars from the 6th century or the 7th century Muslim golden era, right? That's the golden era. They defined who we are. So Hawa, what do we call it? What are we made of? Maybe someone can come and help. I'm sorry? Emotions. Emotions, very good. And where do emotions come from? Heart. I heard heart. Any other thoughts? Soul? Sorry? What is it? I didn't hear it. Social media. Oh, we're going to talk about that, inshallah. Yes. Yeah, good. Yeah. So these are all good questions. And I would like to add more to that, is that this is a model that we use at Relationary. We use a black circle presenting, why black? Our father Adam was black, right? I don't know if you guys know that, but he was created black. So this is our core. This is what we belong to. So we are made of spirit. I heard this brother in the front saying that. We have a heart, body, and mind. So Muslim scholars, sometimes they say mind and heart are the same. Some Muslim scholars, they say the self is a separate from the heart. So self is another component. But in Relationary, we take another opinion from different scholars. We say that the self is actually the mind, the heart together. And that's another opinion of Muslim scholars. So what does that mean? So what does that mean if we are made out of these four things? So the mind is really going to help us to make decisions. All the cognitive and intellectuals, it comes from the mind. And some scholars, they say it also comes from the heart. Recent discoveries, they found brain cells in the heart. So our heart can think and can recall, and they see a quick, very fast connection between the brain and the heart. Another thing is the emotions. So there is emotions. We can debate that the emotions are in the heart or are they in the mind. As a matter of fact, research shows that even though we are in the heart, we feel the emotions, there's also connection to the mind, or what's going on in the mind, that it's stored in the mind. I will show some pictures later on in the hippocampus and the purpose of the amygdala and all that good stuff. So emotions are also stored in our mind. It's not just something we feel, it's something that we actually remember. And you can maybe, I don't know if it happens to you, like you went to a place and you felt like this brings a memory. You get upset or you get happy, or you ate a meal or you smelled something. It kind of makes you really in a different mood. That's because how the brain works, it's really, subhanAllah, it's miraculous how it happens, is that it's stored in the mind in an objective way, but it's somehow linked. So you would remember exactly the same event by smelling something or by tasting something. It triggers in the amygdala, and the amygdala recalls everything from the brain and puts it in an object for you. It's all in our mind. And if that's a positive emotion, it's going to put you in a very good mood. And if it's a negative emotion, then it's going to trigger you in a negative way. So that's going to impact your behavior, is going to impact the people around you. The body, dehydration or hydration. Speaking of which, eating, sleeping, all that stuff also impacts our mood. I would like to invite you all, after you're done with today's program, try it for 1 week. You know the mineral water bottles, like 1.5 liters? If you can finish 3 of those in 1 day, I would like you to see if you can try to finish 4 in 1 day. And towards the end of the day, I would like you to assess your mood. Your mood would have been at least 20% improved than the day before when you didn't have that water. That's just by water, by drinking and hydrating our body. So our body is also connected to our mood. When you eat your favorite dessert, are you happy? No, we'll talk more about food. And for some reason this is not working. Okay, so what about the spirit? So how? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Dhikr, yes, that can help the spirit. But what is it? What is about the spirit? So something that we came up with, which is well, first I'll tell you a side note. So if you look, if you look online, or if you hear people, they've tried different philosophies of spirituality practices. Islam is the least exposed, or explored, I should say. Islam is the least explored compared to Hinduism, Buddhism, what is that? Like Confucianism, right, and all the other places. Because I come from the United States, right? So in the U.S., these things are very famous, but little that they explored Islamic way of spirituality. So the Islamic way of spirituality is the least, I can argue. I would like to argue that. Anybody can argue back, that's fine. But that's my opinion. I strongly believe that Islamic spirituality is the least explored to give people that tranquility spiritually. And there is no doubts, research are showing the importance of spirituality into mindfulness and mental health. Ibn Hazm, he is a scholar, a Muslim scholar in Andalusia, yeah, or Spain. He said, I searched for a common goal amongst mankind, to which all would agree to strive for excellence. I have not found anything other than the vanquishing of anxiety. So that's the most common thing that he found back in the days. In this is 456. That's the lunar calendar, the Muslim calendar. What would that be? About 1,000, about year 1,000 plus or minus. So that also is true as of today. Most of us, if not all, anxiety is a big factor of our life. If we conquer it, we'd be more than likely to achieve what we would like to achieve. So this is the spirituality, we call it at Relationary, the spiritual intelligence. I don't think there is something out there that I'd like to say that we're the first. I don't know. But it's not about first, but it's actually acknowledging the importance of spirituality and how it is connected to IQ. What is IQ? The intelligence quotient, right? And then PQ is physical, and EQ is emotional. So these are things that have been established outside, but these are just to kind of, so spiritual quotient is no different. Excuse me, it's no different, and that's also it's been proven. I mean, we all know it from an Islamic point of view that it does impact our mood and so forth. So if this is who we are, so IQ is in the mind, PQ is in the body, EQ is in the heart, and SPQ is the spiritual part. So these are the main components of mental health. And that's how we look at. So I'm trying to build up all this knowledge to get to how we approach this at Relationary. Let's do an activity. You guys ready? What is this? What about this? No, look closer. That's it's the pipe. It's not the heart. What is that called? I'm sorry? Esophagus. What about this one? Now you can talk about the red one. The heart. This one? Kidney. This one? Liver. This one? Large intestines. This is an activity. You need everybody to participate. This one? Beautiful. Let's do this. What's the red area? Huh? Prefrontal. Okay, that's close. That's very good. Anyone else has an answer to that? What about the yellow one? What does it do? I forgot to tell you guys what each one of these do, right? So the lungs, what does the lung do? Brings us oxygen and helps us to get out of the carbon dioxide and all the other stuff. Esophagus? Yeah, and it helps the food to go one way, and unless we're sick, it goes the other way. The heart, pumping all the blood to the body. Kidney, and you know all these functions, right? But in the brain, what does, you said, what is it called? It's about telling the truth, okay? Anybody else would like to give it a try? The red area, what is that for? What about the yellow? Oops, that's a cheat sheet. What about the yellow area? What is that for? Green? I'm sorry? Thinking, okay? Thank you. So you can guess because I'm here to help you to get the right answer. It's okay to guess. Don't worry about it. Green? Anybody would like to give it a shot? Blue? This is what our brain is functioning. So even feeling hunger is in the brain. If that part of the brain doesn't work, our stomach wouldn't know that it's hungry. So if there is no mechanism, an automatic mechanism to control our breathing, we wouldn't know. I mean, do you know that you're breathing right now? Little of us, I mean, that we're mindful of that. But we take that for granted. All that is done through the brain. The heart movement, same thing in the brain. Our reading, people think that we read with our eyes. Actually, if the part in the brain is not functioning well, we will not be able to see anything or even read. I mean, we can see things, but we'll not be able to read. We see things flip-flopping. It's called dyslexia or dyscalculia, or there's a lot of conditions that in the mind that would impact our reading ability. We can see everything is fine, but we cannot read. And I've seen this happen many, many times. The parents beat their children because they're not reading well. After repeating it over and over, and they call their children stupid and call them names, and all that stigma again comes in. But it's actually the part of the brain is a special, I mean, there is some kind of neurodevelopmental matters that needs to be addressed by specialists to help the child to manage that difficulty. But it doesn't make them stupid. Actually, the word stupid is not, there is no such thing. But we use it, or crazy. There is no such thing. When we see things, and sometimes we see things that are not seen by other people, everybody jumps like, oh, he's jinn, he's possessed, or she's possessed. And they read the Quran, and they do, nothing happened. But actually in the brain is becoming, seeing things. So that's all being managed through mental health. I'm not doubting that there is a possibility and there are conditions that people can be possessed. That's given. But when that has been exercised and been proven that there's nothing there, and you take it to professionals, then we need not to stop and just ignore the matter. We need to go to the next step. We go see a mental health specialist. So the frontal lobe, or the frontal cortex, that's what basically helps us to decide our speech, our smell, and you see all these beautiful things and also like hunger. I have another shot for same for I mentioned about seeing things. Also, hearing things is no different. Some people hear things that other people cannot hear. Again, it could be possession, could be sihr, could be all of that stuff. But if you test it and you've gone through all that and nothing, helped, then it's very likely to be a mental health matter that needs to be seen by a specialist. So these are the areas. This is the neocortex, the prefrontal cortex, and this is the thalamus. Excuse me. And this is also the hippocampus here. And the hippocampus is really interesting how it, in Malaysia, banana is very famous here. I mean, I've never seen banana in my life as much as I've seen in Malaysia, which is a beautiful thing. I love bananas. The hippocampus, it looks just like the two bananas together. It just looks like that, and it's inside our brain. And that's what's responsible for emotions and for managing the emotions. The amygdala is part of that. So the amygdala is where the emotions are triggered. So the amygdala is the emotional memory, if you want to call it that way. So I mentioned earlier, when you smell something, when you see something or taste something, the amygdala triggers, and that is triggering the emotional system that we have in our brain. Again, emotions can be felt in our heart, but we based on research, they say that the research shows that it's stored in the brain. Any questions so far? And here is the purple is the brain stem, which is the central nervous system, where it take care of our sleep. Or yes, question? Yes. Do we have microphone back there? Thank you for keeping me awake. Questions keep me awake.
You talked about how spiritual quotient is related to anxiety. So does that mean if we have anxiety, our spiritual quotient is low? And does that again lead back to the question that, it's all in your head, so you just get over it and strengthen your spirituality so you get over anxiety?
A very good question. So when we say it's about spiritual intelligence or spiritual quotient, we're talking about there are skills. I mean, mental illness or mental health, when we are addressing with people, working with people to improve, we show them the skills. We focus on the how, because from a mental health perspective, we know how. We know what we're supposed to do, but there's something blocking us. So what we work on is what's blocking us to reach that. So it's not about someone to tell me, get over it and all that. So something is blocking me to increase or improve my spiritual intelligence. So therefore, it is about building that skill that would help us grow to be a better person, to be a better in spirituality, to be better in our cognition, in our emotional control, emotional regulation. And that's what mental health is really focusing on. I will be talking more about that, inshallah. But I hope I answered initially. Okay, very good. Okay, so the thalamus is all sensories, like hungry, feeling hot, feeling cold, feeling all that is happening in the thalamus. And you see that it's also close to where amygdala is. So it can be very close in terms of reaction, can be very quick. So like sometimes in therapy, what we do is we take 1 second, someone was calm and all of a sudden was triggered and was upset. Just it takes 1 second sometimes. So we take that 1 second, we find so many events happen in the brain from before the trigger until after the trigger. And that's what we dissect and we try to improve. And that's where we help people to develop and grow. Just wanted to introduce the brain for the first time to some of us. Okay, so how is mental health related to behavior? So we talked about the core of who we are, and how does that, from a mental health perspective, I just want to go back to, maybe I'll just go forward to this one. So from a mental health perspective, all these components, the mind, body, heart, spirit, they're interconnected, and they're all in a network impacting one another. There is no, the body is not alone and cannot be triggering the emotions, and vice versa. Many people, they get sick from being emotionally unstable. How many people felt nauseous before their very important interview, or being called at the principal's office, or I don't know, don't admit about the principal's office, it's okay, you don't need to admit that. But I mean, when we have something like we need to face something, anxiety can go through, can go up. Actually, I did an experiment on myself the other day, actually a few months back. The nurse checked my blood pressure, was normal. I thought of a situation that I knew that I was anxious about, and I brought it into my mind, and I thought about it. And I asked the nurse, can you do me a favor? Can you take my blood pressure again? She said, that's funny, it went up. My blood pressure went up just for me to think about a situation that was anxious, that I know that I was anxious in. So therefore, it is all connected. Same thing with the mind, same thing with the heart and spirit. So if the emotions are impacted, spiritually, are we impacted? Very likely so. Very likely so. It's all interconnected. So I added this circle, the blue circle around it. What is that about? Well, that's about behavior. So this is one type of behavior. This is some kind of behavior related to our survival traits. As we grow up, we learn how to see ourselves either insignificant or significant. Are we the center of the world, or are we nobody? We're a pushover. So that's what we learned, excuse me, in order for us to survive. Do I need to be on the side and not be noticed so I can move on to life, or do I need to be in the center and make my point? So these are the traits that we learned, and that's basically how we behave in many different ways. Also, are we appeasing or are we blaming? So is everything happening around me, is it my fault? No. They didn't do it. He didn't do that. And you get in any situation, it was the other person's fault. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. It's that person's fault. It's not my fault. It's other people's fault. So reflecting and projecting basically everything to others. And also, and the other way that we behave sometimes is appeasing or pleasing others. So for us to survive, just the boss, hey boss, no problem, you're okay today, give you a coffee, give you this, just pleasing them. And what happens with these behaviors, if we don't know how to manage them, is going to take a toll on our mental health. So that's how behavior can impact us. So this is, now we're talking about external factors that impact our mental health. And if it's impacting us internally, therefore, guess what? It's also impacting us externally. If my anxiety is high, I would probably just say, you know what? I'll just let it go. I don't have to worry about who I am or my religion is. If I sit in a place that has alcohol in it, I'll just be quiet. I don't want to make a scene. I'll just please the boss and just go along with it. That's impacting us spiritually, right? And it's impacting us, our behavior, and that's also coming from our anxiety, quote unquote. I'm just saying that as an example. So it's all connected. So we connected the mind, the heart, the soul, and the body, and now we're connecting the behavior. So all of that so far so good? All clear? All right. So this is our model. And therefore now next, I'll be talking about how is all of that relating to our relationships. Oh, that's the question. So what are the types of relationships we have? I'm not talking about father, mother, son, daughter, all that. No, I'm talking about in general. What are the types of relationships that we have? Good and toxic. So that's, okay. So under good and toxic, what could be called a relationship? That's one way to do it. but also personal, professional, that's between who and who? You and who else? Other people. So that's me and other people. What other relationships that we have? So us and other people can be parents, can be professional, can be all that stuff. And it can be toxic, can be also good. So that's the description, if I may use that word, of the relationship. Yes, brother. Relationship with the self. That's very important. Thank you. That's two. So these are two types of relationships. Relationship with God, the Creator. That's three relationships. What about the fourth one? Because I can tell you there is a fourth one. Environment. What was back there? I didn't hear. Environment. Okay. Yeah. I would like to use a different word. It's very similar to environment. I call it situation. So this is who we are, and that's basic. These are the types of relationships. We are in the middle, and we interact with these relationships all the time, non-stop. Situation, it can be environment, place, event. It can be a status, could be financial, could be academic. It could be an endeavor, like you want to get married, so you're focusing a lot about getting married, or you're having a child, so you're focusing a lot on having a child, or illness, medical, physical illness, and so forth. So, if we were to focus on our other people, how does that impact the other types of relationships? We're very likely to ignore ourselves, so therefore our self-esteem is going to be impacted, and our focus is only to please other people or give other people what they want. Our focus on our situation is going to be very impacted as well. Like we're not going to be focusing on, like for example, if my job, if all I do is focus on, let's use work because this is kind of not personal, so we just keep it general. If I only focus on the customers, I only want the customers to please them. So they complain, I give them freebies, free here, free there. Am I focusing on the business situation? Am I going to lose money, or am I focusing on the business to be profitable? I'm not. I'm just focusing on the customer. Same thing if I were to focus on the boss. I may not be looking after for me to grow in that job. So I'll just focus on being with the boss. If the boss grows, I'll just grow with the boss. So the focus is always on the other. And there's no doubt it's also going to impact our relationship with our Creator, and that's spirituality. So it's about our values, about how we relate to our Creator. What about if you focus on ourselves? We'll be ignoring other people. Very likely the family will be the first to suffer, because you're out and about going Tay Tarik every other day or every day. You're going, I don't know, bowling and schmoling and all that stuff, and you're having a good time. You're going work out, you barely see the children, you barely spend time with your spouse, and that's the first to really take a toll. I have worked in corporates. I've seen sad stories, to be honest. Very successful CEOs and OOs or whatever, and they actually end up losing their family, divorce, and alcohol addiction and all that stuff. You can see their career just fading away when they became from hero to zero. And excuse me, and that's because maybe they were focusing on the situation. Maybe in that area they wanted to focus on their career and expanding their horizon, as they call it, within the career. So that's if you focus on, like many people is like, I'm going to finish my school and then I'm going to get married. So their focus is on what? Was on the situation because of academic needs. Is that correct? Is that wrong? I really don't know, but it's all about at that stage in their life, they're focusing only for academics. Or if they are ill, they're spending most of their time, if not all of the time, just thinking about their illnesses and talking to everybody about their illnesses. And illnesses is becoming their identity. Same thing as the students of universities and so forth. That becomes their identity. and they don't. So that takes a toll of themselves, their focus on themselves, takes a toll on their focus with others and with the Creator. So is it possible that our focus on our Creator can also be detrimental to focus on the others? Is it possible? Is this state possible? And is there anything wrong with it? How is it possible? Can you? Beautifully said. Everybody heard that? Can you have the microphone, please? And because I couldn't have said it better. That was really good. Yeah, please repeat it.
So, focusing on ibadah here, if I'm a person who is 24 hours into 7 days doing ibadah, calling out the Creator every minute, every second, then what happens in that situation? I'm not giving time to work hard for my sustenance, which is also a part and parcel for me to sustain. If I'm not, that's a situation, because sustenance is a situation in event. If I don't focus on my sustenance, because my work will also have a relationship with others, because my business or whatever it is, every sustenance has a relationship with others. Now, if I don't take care of my sustenance, that means I will lose my health, because that is myself. That's what I mean.
Very good. Jazakallah khairan. Well said. In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, about 3 men came to him. One said what? I will pray at night, I will not go to sleep. The other said, I will not marry women, because they want to worship, right? And the third one said, maybe I got mixed up the order, but about fasting, I will not eat, I will just continue to fast. The Prophet ﷺ corrected that. So it's all about balance. The Prophet said, I marry women, I sleep and I pray and I eat and fast. So it's all about balance. So it can happen. So it does impact if we're too focused, if you forget about your family, your situation, you're very likely to be a burden on the community, and that's not an Islamic etiquette, right? That's not from the Islamic etiquette. We're supposed to carry our own weight and help the community. So this is where we need to be, in the middle. This is what we call at Relationary the congruent state. To be congruent is to be able to balance between all these focus points. And remember the black? What was inside the black? The orange, blue, green, and white. Mind, body, heart, and spirit. And around it is what? Our behavior. So that's the model. Our behavior is going to impact also the relationship, and the relationship is going to impact the behavior. Same thing with the behavior, with our mind and heart and all that good stuff that we have inside us is going to be, therefore, be impacted. So the idea here is not to really stay there steady, not move. You know, you're probably going to move around like this. Sometimes you need to pay attention to the situation, but you should be able to go back to here normally and easily. And sometimes maybe you want to focus on others, but not, not stuck there. You should, be able to go back in the middle here, right? During Hajj or Umrah, you need to be connected to the Creator, right? You don't want to talk about other stuff. And also we can do that at night. We can do that. We can focus only on our relationship with our Creator, or at any time of the day. But we should be also capable and easily go back to the congruent state. So the idea is not really to be, stiff in that position, but it's to be mobile and to have that ability to move around according to the needs that you have. So what mental health does how we are brought up or how we are impacted throughout our lives, we focus on one area and we tend to believe this is normal. We don't know. We don't know what's normal. We don't know what's not. If you were to, I forgot what's the name of that case, where the parents tied the daughter, I think it was in LA, back in the 70s. They tied the daughter to a radiator at home. They didn't allow the daughter to go out and grow. Her mind was not able to develop, so therefore it took years of therapy to get her as a normal person. She got as close as possible, but still struggling as an adult. It's a famous study back in the day. And there are so many other studies that I can share, inshallah, in the future. So what I'm trying to say is that our upbringing also impacts our mental health and how we relate to these four things. So at Relationary, our focus is to journey with the person who needs help to achieve that congruent state. So from a clinical psychologist, they know enough about the need for physical attention if the brain needs specific medications. But what most important is that we focus on, we develop that skill as much as possible without depending on medication. But sometimes medications are needed, but they are needed for a certain period of time to help the people to overcome that, if you want to call it a bridge, throughout the journey of self-improvement. So healthy relationships leads to healthy mental state, and vice versa. So what's internal can be projected externally in our relationship, and vice versa. Our relationship can be impacting us internally. So how mental health or a mental state it's signaled through emotions, thoughts. Have you ever were really calm and then you thought of something got you upset? And vice versa. You were upset and you thought of something that got you calm. So thoughts can be very, very powerful to our mental state. Body, sometimes when some people are hungry, they get grouchy, they get irritated, they get angry. So that's impacting their emotion and their mood. Behavior, some people when they get angry or anxious or happy, they go shopping. That's a behavior. Or they steal something. So if your child stole, it doesn't mean he's a thief or she's a thief. There's something there that needs to be paid attention to. If your child is sitting around playing video games, it doesn't mean that they're lazy. They really need help. They really need help. They're not lazy, they're not stupid, they're just struggling internally. I'm going to say this. I was talking to my son just last night. I was asking him, he's 14, so I asked him, have you ever been 15? He said, no. Because I said, I have been 15. And he asked me, have you ever been 14 in 2020? I was like, that's a very good question. I've never been. So tell me, what is it like to be 14 in 2020? These are the conversations we need to have with our children. We don't know, because unless they tell us, we will always just, judging what they're going through based on what we learned. But we never, or hardly ever, or very unlikely that we reach out to understand their struggle. Because from our struggle, maybe what we cared about is that having an AC in a car, because we had to walk to school and it was really hot at home. But that's no longer an issue everywhere in the world, I would assume. No, I can take it back. Not everywhere in the world, but you know what I'm saying. So reaching out to our children and having these kind of conversations is going to really help us to understand what is it like for them to be a 14 or a 12 or a 10-year-old in 2020. And which is really interesting today is 10-10-2020, which is, I don't know what that means, but it's kind of a nice number. But reaching out, having these conversations, listening, encouraging that for them. But here's the thing, if the relationship between me and my child is not strong, is not secure, it's very likely that they're not going to open up. If once they open up, it's like, oh, you should do it this way. Oh, you don't know how to do it. Oh, why you do it that way? Why you do it that way? So we're judging, we're telling them what to do. So we do have also a program on coaching parents how to coach their children, how to be a coach to your child. Not a coach in sports, but a coach in life. So, but that's really, so what's visible sometimes for us is not necessarily what's really happening. Some very common question I ask people who have stigma against depression. I said, what does a person with depression look like? Who would like to answer that question? What would a person with depression look like? How would they look? Confused? I'm sorry? State of anxiety? I heard something from back there. What does a person with anxiety look like? Just like you and I. They look no different. They laugh, they smile, they walk, they talk, but they are depressed or they have severe anxiety. You'd be surprised that a person you're really, really close to, they may be suffering from depression or anxiety, but you don't know. Because there is no such thing called the look of someone. I mean, the common answer is like this. They're like, oh, they're just down, they're sad. Not necessarily. Many people are jovial and very, whatchamacallit, what's the word I'm thinking about? Bubbly, that's the word. Very friendly, but they're actually suffering from depression. Not suffering, but they are dealing with depression, or they are diagnosed with severe depression. You wouldn't know. It's like, oh, that person, it was fine yesterday. How come? Well, they've had depression for years, actually. Now they just they feel comfortable to seek for help. They've had depression for years. Okay. So if you are not able, so achieving congruence can be achieved on your own, but if you're not able to achieve that congruent state, seek professional help. And that's why we have this program here with Al-Khaadem to allow this opportunity for people to reach out and take advantage of this program to help them, inshallah, to reach that congruency. Let's do another activity. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. Who can guess what this is? Well, everybody knows that. Okay, very good, very good. Who can guess what is this? Emotional chart, I heard that. Yeah, one person I heard. This is emotional. These are how many emotions we have. Actually, this is some of what we could put in one screen. There's a whole lot of emotions that we don't know. Once in one of my classes I used to do at Al-Furqan, I was telling people that we need to express our feelings. And that was like looked down upon. It's like, oh no, astaghfirullah, we don't do that. It's like, what's wrong with that? So again, I'm coming from a background that is, emotional expression is different than. So it's like, no, you don't. You get angry, you beat people up. It's like, no, you don't want to express that. And I was like, okay, I understand now what's going on. Expressing your emotion is actually naming it. You need to name that emotion. That's going to help you understand why you're angry, why you're anxious, why you're this, why you're that. Because everybody's like, how do you feel? I'm happy, or sad, or angry, or ashamed, or fearful. But under them, there's so many different names for that. Embarrassment can make us feel angry. Embarrassment can also make us feel fearful. Embarrassment can also make us feel disgusted. Just being embarrassed. But we don't think embarrassed. We think, angry, sad. Embarrassment can make us feel sad. But naming it, expressing it is very important. And no one can tell you, oh, you're not embarrassed. No one can deny that from you because you know what your state is. But that's the EQ. That's the emotional intelligence. Okay, so I can share these slides for you guys, inshallah. I can share the link and put it in the PDF. You guys can download it. But feel free to take pictures, no problem. And then additional factors that impact our congruent state. There's external experiences and learning. These are some of the things. I just want to go through it really quickly. The experiences that we experience in our lives. Friends at school. Some of us are really good. They have a lot of friends, and some of them don't feel comfortable having friends. It could be an experience that they experienced in that period of their lives. And the things that we learn from our parents, from our neighbors, from our relatives and educational institutions and so forth. Internal memories also can impact our congruent state as well as beliefs. So these internal and external can impact our self-esteem, our sabotaging ourselves, and so forth. It's just, the list goes on and on. Just want to know what number of slide. Okay. So the cycle of recovery, it's about reflecting. It's loading up. So we reflect, we reframe, and then that enables us to rebloom, and therefore we rejoice. And this is done one incident at a time, or one relationship at a time, or one status at a time. It's all about learning how to reflect, how to reframe, and how to enable ourselves to rebloom, and therefore we can enjoy the outcome. Also, just wanted to share some of the mental health professionals, what's their roles, just so we all understand what roles they have and who should we go to for help. So there is a certified counselor, people like me, clinical psychologist, like my colleagues at Relationary. We have about 4 or 5, maybe 6 clinical psychologists. We have 2 or 3 counselors. And psychiatrists. We have association with 2 psychiatrists that we work with closely. So in terms of assessments and diagnosis of mental disorder, a counselor very likely not qualified to do that. So I cannot diagnose a specific mental disorder, right? So that's not my area. That's my colleagues. They're clinical psychologists that are specialized in that. And the same thing goes with outside Relationary. Any person counseling tells you, let me diagnose what's happening. That's not what a counselor does. So save your money. Do not do that with a counselor. Look for a clinical psychologist. Now, psychiatrist, what's a psychiatrist? A psychiatrist is a medical doctor with specialty on brain, on mental related specific things that related to the brain. So they prescribe medication. So we think of it as depends. It really depends on the psychiatrist background, meaning their training, because as they graduate as a psychiatrist, little that they get exposure, that's the normal practicum, and generally speaking, little that they get exposure on how to do therapy without medication. So if the psychiatrist went through a licensing program or training in how to do CBT and how to do a lot of the other things, that modalities that we use in therapy, then we say it's not a bad idea to go to see a psychiatrist. Specifically here, we're talking about assessments and diagnosis. So it's not about CBT actually, I'll correct myself. It's about being a diagnostician. We have a diagnostician at Relationary. She's a clinical psychologist. So clinical psychology is the most qualified. You can close your eyes and go see a clinical psychologist when it comes down to diagnosing. But if you want to see a diagnostician, you need to see someone who is certified as a diagnostician. So if the psychiatrist was, attended or got certified or trained on how to diagnose, so that would be maybe not a bad idea to see a psychiatrist. But if the psychiatrist is not, then maybe it's best to be safe to start with a clinical psychologist. So in terms of prescribing medication, the counselor cannot prescribe medication. Not even vitamins. We don't do that. That's not ethical per se. Clinical psychologists cannot do that either. And the one that we work closely with is the psychiatrist. When there's a severe condition that we need intervention from medicine, then we work closely with the clinical psychologist to help the patient or the client to improve and get better in building the skills. So what happens is that when there is no medicine, the brain is not able to function normally, to absorb or to do activities. So therefore, the medication improves that. So it doesn't improve your faith, right? So if you're depressed, you take medication, it's not faith medication, it's medication for depression. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands, and especially the people, inshallah, be recorded and more people to get to hear this. Depression is not a state of faith. But when medication kicks in, the person would feel much better. And that enables them to do the activities. Because as I said before, depression, anxiety, all these mental illnesses can be absolutely crippling. It's not about someone being lazy. Treating mental disorder. Mental disorder can be, depends on the severity. So counselors can do up to moderate. And if they are trained, they do severe. And that's the assessment that really defines how severe is the mental disorder. And the clinical psychologist pretty much does across. And the psychiatrist, again, depends on their training, on their licensure, and all that stuff. Conducting psychotherapy, counselors and clinical psychologists are capable of doing that. The psychiatrist, it depends on their training or certifications. So I invite you, if you want to see a psychiatrist, to feel comfortable to ask the psychiatrist or the assistant of the psychiatrist to see what learning, what certifications they've done for psychotherapy before you do see the psychiatrist. So the roles of mental health professionals is pretty much to do the opposite of what we mentioned before, to identify the root cause. It's not about just building the skill, it's really to identify the specific root cause of what's happening. And that can take many sessions. Once it's identified, then we will focus on the skills, and then we get as a patient, I would get a better understanding, a deeper understanding of myself and others, my past, how my experiences all shaped of how I think and how I behave today. And also it teaches me how to be compassionate to ourselves. So many people I've talked to before, that they say, well, if I talk about myself, then that makes me narcissistic. That has nothing to do with being narcissistic. The Prophet ﷺ said that we have rights, or ourself has rights on us. So that's again about the balance. We don't want to be too focused on ourselves, but we don't want to ignore ourselves. When we are too focused, I mean, that doesn't mean you're narcissistic either, but that's another personality disorder that can be addressed by clinical psychologists. So narcissism, borderline, all the personality disorders, that's a different maybe talk that we can talk more about, but it's definitely related to mental health. So bottom line with all that, it is okay to not be okay. And that does not make you unhealthy if you are not okay. So mental health stages, I mean the coverage, like for example for Relationary, we work with parents before birth to work on their child's mental health. Before birth, we work, let me repeat that. We work with parents to work on their child's mental health before birth. If you start after birth, I forgot which scholar was that. Muslim scholar said the child was 8 months. He said it's too late. Working with the child before birth on their mental health and neurodevelopmental, the neurodevelopmental stages is very important. We cover that at Relationary. Also, the prenatal, adolescent, adulthood, marriage and family, growing older, or late adulthood, as well as death and dying. Many people, they have illnesses that their doctor is saying you have 6 months to live, or 3 years to live, or this, that. So that's a stage of death and dying. It doesn't have an age, but it's pretty much, it can happen at any time. So all of these stages have different challenges, different things that impacts our core, our mind, heart, soul, and spirit. And we are specialized to work with different stages. I don't work with children. We have specialists at Relationary that are specialized with working with children. Other specialty with grief, other specialty with skills on how to improve like speech or reading or all that stuff. So example of mental health is neurodevelopmental. ADHD is attention deficit hypertension disorder. Autism, we have a specialist also that works with us in autism, Dr. Karen. She's here. If you have any questions about autism or any other mental illnesses, she's here, as well as clinical psychologist Yan Lee. And feel free to talk to them after the talk to give you more information. Mood, whether it's stress, depression, and anxiety. I don't know if you know anyone that lost their lives because of stress. Not sure, but if you talk to someone with hypertension, assess their stress. See how stressful are they, or how stressful is their lifestyle. Behavioral giftedness. Many cases that we see is that the child is gifted, but actually suffering because of the parents. And the parents don't know that the child is gifted. They just see the child not doing certain things. And because that child is not able to do certain things, I noticed this actually with one of my tutors to my children. And I have a child that does things in math specifically, never heard of it, how he does it. But the tutor insisted that he does it a certain way. Well, we had to let go of the tutor. And we had to nurture that within our child to develop that natural giftedness that he has for math, for a specific example. So sometimes giftedness can be destroyed in the child's life because of the parents' care to help the child to do quote-unquote better. So it's well-intentioned, it's well-intended by the parents, but the impacts are detrimental to the child. So understanding the giftedness of the child means that you also need to treat that child a certain way so you can nurture that giftedness inside them. Relationships, eating disorders, whether it's eating too much or not eating at all. Pain, I don't know if you guys know that pain psychology. We have a pain psychologist, a psychologist who is experienced in working with patients with pain. Because again, pain, like hunger, it comes from the brain. It's all in the mind. And with the ability, actually what I just like to tell you that generally speaking what counseling and therapy does and in mental health is actually the brain structure changes. I'll show you some pictures of before and after shortly. Sex and intimacy and sexual behavior or sexual performance. Chronic illnesses, neurodegenerative, that's relating to what's the word? It's on the tip of my mouth. Forgot. And also grief. So neurodegenerative can be due to age and can due to different causes for other than age. It's still not coming to my mind. Okay. So this is a brain scan. So this is a believer and this is not a believer? No. This is a person with depression and this is the person after they're treated from depression. So the brain activity is very low in the depression mode. And what happens is through therapy, it does improve that activity in the brain. So the brain structure itself is changing actually. It's more active. This is another brain scan of a person without depression, how the brain is active. This is PTSD. What's PTSD? Post-traumatic syndrome disorder, right? So post-traumatic means that something traumatizing happened. It could be even we forgot about. Could be in our subconscious. Maybe we were 2 years old, but it's actually impacting us now. We never remember it, but it's there. So the brain's, I don't know if the picture is clear, but the brain structure is totally different for someone with PTSD as opposed to someone without PTSD. OCD, what is OCD? Obsessive compulsive disorder. What does that mean? That means they take, and they cannot control it. They take maybe an hour to make wudu, to make ablution, or they repeat it 10 times. Or they rub their hands until the skin becomes, bleeding. It's not something they can control, and you can tell them enough all you want, but it doesn't make any difference. That's the behavior that they believe that this is how they get cleaned. OCD is a mental health condition that we also work with. So this is the brain scan of someone with OCD, and this is someone without OCD. So this is a brain scan of someone who went through therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, CBT. So you see this active part is becoming more active after therapy. And this one, I love this picture. You see the brain on the top is dark. It's as if they turned on the light in the brain in the bottom. That's after treatment. The brain is, significantly more active and more functioning than the one above. You don't see any blue here. Blue means least active, and it's dark pretty much everywhere. So our relationship and our behavior, that's what people see. But we cannot judge a person from their behavior in a sense that they can say that they're crazy or rude or this. Maybe there's something really struggling inside them. And what's hidden is the mood, the memories, the trauma, the neurodevelopmental matters that we have inside us. I'd like now to talk about relationary. Any questions before I start that? All clear? Yeah? The spirit and the heart, the difference between them? Okay, so scholars, Muslim scholars and also Western scholars, they said the heart is where we feel the emotion. The heart is where the emotion really sits. And others, they say it's the brain. So there's different research shows different things. So we can say the heart is where we're triggered emotionally, but it's stored in the mind. In terms of spirit, it's actually our connectedness to our Creator. How spiritual are we in terms of the deeper meaning? What's the purpose? Why are we here? All that is related to spirituality. And how to do things every day, on what basis, values, principles, all that comes from spirituality. Does that make sense? Yes, you have another question to that? The fight? The faith. Good question. So spirit it does impact faith, right? But because the more we practice how to make that relationship with our Creator, the better is our faith. Does that answer your question? A very good question. So what about different faith? That's a very good question. I also ask the same thing when people tell me that people who are depressed, they don't have strong faith. I tell them there are many people who are not Muslim, but they're not depressed. What do you say about that? So faith itself is a practice that we bring into our life. It can bring us a meaning. But what happens if that meaning is not tangible? is not something that is real, sometime in our lives that clashes. And if that clashes, our identity or our understanding of spirituality is gone. And that causes a huge shake-up to the core. That's why for Muslims, when they understand what the God is and what does He want from us, it's really important to relearn it correctly. Because as we grow spiritually, right, and our practices and our beliefs and our meanings, is our job is not really, our focus is not really to eat more or experience more. It's about being a better Muslim, is being worshiping to God. That's the purpose. But as we grow in that purpose, the more we find it more congruent to our being. For someone else who I can argue that maybe they don't believe in God, and sometime in their lives they feel empty. But it doesn't mean they're depressed. It can cause depression, right? But it's not that easily connected. It's not like a one-to-one relationship. It can be many causes can cause depression. One of them is not having the strong spirit. Yeah, but definitely a strong spirit can help us approach and be a better believer, and therefore more protected from falling into mental illnesses. Good questions. Jazakallah khairan. Yes?
Just want to get an understanding of Relationary's experience. In your experience, how much does skill and behavior affect depression, regardless of whether or not the person is taking medication? But how much does learning those skills and changing the behavior helps?
How much is what? I'm sorry?
Learning the skills and changing behavior help in depression, from your experience?
Significantly. Once you learn the skills and how to manage depression, you'll be just fine, inshallah. So I always say to in my talks, in my sessions, therapy does work. There's no question about that. By the will of Allah, it does work. It takes time because we are working with cells. We're working with the actual brain to restructure it. We're not actually physically, by hand, restructuring it, but by building that reframe, reflect all these skills, it will help people to be better with their mental. So I'll talk more about that. We have a flourishing model. I will be talking about how to flourish with mental illness or with mental health, or little or high. That's our approach. So this is a good, inshallah, introduction to get into our approach. Our approach, we look at systemic, meaning the system around the person. We see their family, we look at what's their surroundings at a younger age. How did they grow up? Who their parents are? What did they do? What's the relationship between them and their parents, between the person that is coming for help or their parents? And everything is confidential. So when people go to therapy, some people's like, oh, this is private, I don't want to share it with anybody. However, we don't have any problems going to see a medical doctor to show them our aura, right? Our private parts, or our aura, whatever it is. So it's it's a professional role. So therefore, everything you discuss with this person, the therapist, is all confidential and it's kept in closed doors. Nobody would know about it, and that's your right as a person who is seeking help from a professional in psychology. So we focus on the system that the person came from and the surrounding of that person. And also we look at it from a positive psychology. We look at it from a positive point of view. So, so always the rebloom and reframe is going to be a positive experience to help them enable flourishing. So if you were to think about these two axes, the vertical one is mental health. The horizontal wall, the horizontal axis is about mental illness. So we have high mental health or low mental health, and we have high mental illness, which is red, and low mental illness. All right. So these are, they're not quadrants, but there's different sections. These are how they are. How are they related? So if someone with low mental health, they're very likely to be in a languishing state with mental illness. So this is in this half. So this half is with mental illness, is high, and this is a low mental illness. So if you are in this area, so the person is languishing with mental illness. And with this in this region, the person is languishing, they're struggling, they're struggling to basically in their lives. They don't have mental illness. It's a low mental illness state. So therefore, they are still struggling because the mental health is low. So the mental health is not as strong. Just like a muscle. You have muscles. If I ask you to carry this whiteboard, you will not be able to. But if you're physically healthy, meaning built, your physical build is complete, you're probably going to carry it with one hand. Shouldn't be a problem. No different with mental health. Mental health can be low. We're not going to be able to meet the changes and the surprises that we have in life. So the smallest thing, we just buckle and we just impact it significantly. So the resilience is not as strong. So if we are in this section here, so we are living with moderate mental health. So our health is just getting us by. If we get surprised or a curveball came to us or unforeseen incident that we might not be ready to handle it well. So it might impact our mental health. And that's the moderate mental health. It's not at high mental health. So this here across is moderate mental health. You can have strong mental illness or low mental illness. So if you're low mental illness, you're still at risk to fall into mental illness. And if you have high mental illness with moderate mental health, you're living with moderate mental health and mental illness. So your ability to the risk to fall into languishing is very high. So if we are in any of these three areas, we are at very high risk to fall into low mental health or fall into the other way around, to go to the left, to have some kind of mental illness. So if you are in the golden section, so you are either flourishing with mental illness, so this is the section with mental illness, or if you have low mental illness, you'll be flourishing. And that's the state that we work with our clients, is to achieve this state, and not only to achieve it, but actually excel at it to go all the way to the top. Even though you have mental illness, it doesn't mean that you cannot flourish. You can still flourish and be happy and be wonderfully excited and feel fulfilled in your life, even with mental illness. So if our mental health, like for example, if somebody, I said diabetes, somebody with diabetes, can we say that they're not healthy? Can we say someone with diabetes, they're not healthy? I don't think so. I've seen a lot of the people with diabetes, they're very healthy. They're very healthy. We cannot say that they're not healthy. They just have diabetes. But they're living a very fulfilling life. They exercise, they do all the things we do. But they learn how to do it differently. And that's where also psychology for chronic illnesses can also help them. Okay, so with that, so the goal is to achieve off the chart mental health, to be healthy mentally, and that's the flourishing state. So we always focus on this, and we expand and we grow. We help our clients and patients to grow in that area, away from this risky area. So this is a high risk. If we are in any of these sections, you are at a low risk. We're still at risk. I mean, if you brush your teeth every day, are you still at risk of getting a cavity? But it's a low risk. But it's possible, right? It is possible. Same thing with mental illness, and same thing with mental health. If you are healthy, you don't have diabetes, and you're eating fine, is there a risk that you might get diabetic or be diagnosed with it? There is a risk. It's a low risk, but it's again manageable as long as you learn how to maintain that state, that healthy state. You will be continuing to flourish. So the state of flourishing is a wholeness. It's a state of wholeness actually where individuals live happy, meaningful, and fulfilling life. Flourishing is possible for any individual who experiences high levels of emotions or emotional, psychological, and social well-being, irrespective of the presence or the absence of mental health. So meaning that you can be flourishing even with mental health or any kind of neurodevelopmental differences. And neurodevelopmental can be a slow learner or a gifted person. And a gifted person can also be a slow learner in something else. So a gifted person in math might not be very good in reading, for example. In summary, we all can flourish and achieve happiness altogether. Regardless of your unique struggles, past experiences, learning, memories, all that stuff, and whatever circumstance that you went through, there is hope for all of us to achieve happiness, well-being, and flourish. We flourish in our life and we help other people flourish as well. At Relationary, we promote mental health as a holistic well-being and growth for all individuals, families, and communities. Flourishing is not necessarily a trait or characteristic, but rather a process that is linked with action. The ability to flourish is defined as the ability for a person to grow as a human being through good times and through life struggles and tough times. So, getting to know us more, how do we help people flourish? We use evidence-based. We don't use guesswork. We don't do hypnosis. We don't do anything that has not been proven that does work. Highly qualified coaches, and our team is highly qualified coaches, professional counselors, and clinical psychologists. We don't have NLP. We don't believe in LLP, to be honest. I don't recommend anybody to invest in NLP. I'll be responsible for that statement. Unique assessment integrations. So the assessment is also, we use evidence-based assessments that's been proven to work and to help us diagnose exactly what's going on. And all of that is supported by Islamic values and guidance. So in Relationary, we do have non-Muslim professionals, but they do understand the Muslim aspect and the Muslim values and what does it mean to be a Muslim. And we will continually provide more trainings on how to train or how to work with Muslim individuals, couples, and families. So what we do for services: clinical psychology, counseling and therapy, educational and developmental, which really focuses on how people develop and how they learn throughout their lifetime. So it's not only for children, but also for anybody, adolescent, young adults, and also late adults. Individuals, also couples, families, and so forth. Assessments, it's integrated assessments that can look at things from a different perspective to help us diagnose what's happening. Also, we provide employee assistance program. So that's for companies that want to invest in their people to flourish. We do coaching as well as supervised or supervision programs and advisory. And we did before the MCO a few workshops and trainings, and inshallah we're planning to kick off some more in this year, and definitely inshallah next year we're going to be launching hard inshallah. Our team, so top management, we have operations, we have services. It's really important. I feel it's important for me to introduce this because you know Al-Khaadem, but maybe you don't know what we do. So it's just a quick introduction of what we do. So we have clinical psychology, and all these counseling, coaching, and EAP is under services. Under operations, we have administration, finance awareness programs, as well as the legal team. This is our team. I don't remember counting them, but they're all here. We're hiring for a new therapist. Anybody is in therapy, or maybe they can apply. So today with us we have Dr. Karen and we have Yen Lee. Dr. Karen is a senior clinical psychologist. Yen Lee is our clinical psychologist. We have also Raz, and where is he? Okay, here. And we have Lutfi. Both of them are supervised interns that also offered part of this program to see if you want to see a supervised intern. Intern meaning that they are working on in the last year of their professional clinical psychology. So they're clinical psychologist interns. And we also have Husna and Winwan. Where? Oh, she's right here. Okay, and Winwan. So Winwan also is an intern, as well as Husna, from an undergrad school. Where are we located? We have two locations. One is Sunway Geo, which is Sunway City in Subang. It's right across from the Sunway Medical Center. And then we have a branch also at the Intermark. Most of our sessions take place in Sunway Geo in Sunway City, but we do take limited sessions at the Intermark. So you can contact us, relationary.com, contact us. And this is basically the front of it's like facing the main road. So if you drive by that area, you should be able to see our sign. Now I'd like to talk about the program, the mental health, the Mind, Heart and Soul program that is launched by Al-Khaadem in collaboration with Relationary. So it's a 3-level program. The first level is this one today. It's the free talk and the online assessment. So the link to the online assessment is up. Okay, so you can go to al-khaadem.my.
The same links as on the poster, bit.ly/akmhs. So you can go back to the same link, and the online assessment link will be there. That will also lead you to Relationary's landing page. Yeah.
Also, you can scan this one here, and right on top of this page says "Take me to Mind, Heart and Soul" screening. You can scan this, or you can go to Al-Khaadem. So this will basically help you to submit your assessment online for today. The assessment is part of it is to do an initial, the online application is to do an initial assessment. This assessment will be reviewed by one of the clinicians that we have, and then they can you can book the session and you can start talking, and they will tell you the results of that assessment. So this will qualify you to level 2. And by the way, the program has to go through level by level. So we cannot skip a level. So for those who are not with us today or online, or want to, or if you know someone may be interested in this program, you can let us know, or you can give them the link. They can watch this talk and they can understand what to expect out of this program. And then they can do the signing also online. They can go to the link that the brother mentioned for Al-Khaadem, or they can go to relationary.com/MHS. Also takes you to the same assessment. So in level 2, you will have this session to go over the assessment results with one of our practitioners, and you will need to attend a session with Sheikh Hussain. So this is again for Sheikh Hussain to be involved from the spiritual point of view, and also to integrate our work with what he does. Now, what we discuss in our sessions, we don't disclose it with Sheikh Hussain, or we don't disclose it with anybody. It is still our professional commitment to all of you who are interested to take advantage of this program, that confidentiality will be looked at very closely as we do as normal day-to-day. After finishing level 2, you will go to level 3, and that would include 3 sessions with Relationary and 2 activities at Al-Khaadem. So again, this is a collaboration between us and Al-Khaadem. So, so for level 2, I'll expand more on level 3 in a little bit. So session with Relationary, basically you can do it with a supervised intern, you can do it with a professional practitioner, or you can do it with a senior practitioner. But the session with Sheikh Hussain will happen after that. We will help you track your progression in these levels at Relationary as well. For level 3, we have the first session with, so after the screening, so this is the consultation session, you can think about it, the results of the assessment. For level 3, we start session 1, and then you do an activity with Al-Khaadem, and then we do session 2, and then you do an activity with Al-Khaadem, and you do the last session, session 3, and that's the last of this program. Now after that, you want to continue, we're more than happy to work with you to continue further if you would like to take care of more stuff that you want to focus on your mental health, mental well-being, and work with your status, whatever it is that you're facing and what help you need. So this is pretty much yeah, so this is the Relationary landing page, is the Relationary MHS. You can click on that once you get to that page. So Al-Khaadem has weekly programs, Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. We invite you all to be more active and attending these programs. There's also volunteering opportunities with Al-Khaadem, volunteering with SPK. I'm not familiar with that, but it's a charity. Volunteering at New Muslim Community. Volunteer at other Al-Khaadem programs, just like Perfecting My Salah and Spring Cleaning. So any questions or answers? I've been taking them as we go along, so I'm not sure how much. So we need to wrap it up really quick. Any last questions or thoughts? Yes. It's a personal, yeah. Including with the session with? Same thing, individual. I mean, if you want to come as an individual, it'll be individual. If you want to work as a couple, you'll be a couple. If you want to bring the family to work and flourish, then it'll be a family. But how do we go about it at Relationary is a bit different. Sometimes we talk to each one separately. And again, that's part of what we will do when you guys first come in. Yes, in the first session or the consultation session, you will get the results. And you will get also feedback from the clinician, what would be the best steps forward, what options do you have? And then you would continue with level 2, and then you would continue with level 3. And you will be working with one of our professionals, and as well as with Sheikh Hussain at the beginning, but then you'll be involved in some volunteering activities or the programs, and then that would help you take advantage the most from this program, inshallah. Absolutely, stress is a big, so sometimes what happens is stress can cause depression. Sometimes stress can cause anxiety and vice versa. So these are comorbid states. Two things or more than two things are happening at the same time. So yes, if you're feeling, stress is a mental health matter that we need to address. How to manage stress, because stress does impact our mental state. Very good question. Absolutely. Anything relating to mental health, what we talked about, whether relationship, spiritual, cognitive, emotional, all the stuff we talked about is covered under this program. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you can arrange the date. Once you submit this, you will get a code that is assigned to you. And you get an email on how to book your next session, and then you will be going to our website, you book the session, you pick who you want to see, whether you want to see an intern, you want to see a clinical psychologist or senior clinical psychologist or a counselor, and all of that is done online. Once you choose that, you will have a video actually in the email to show you how to do that. Once you do that, then it's booked in the system and someone will meet with you at your time, at your availability. Well, it's best to do it in person. We do follow SOP and we take it very seriously. So if the person or the people are not able or don't feel comfortable to do that, we can do it online, and it's also secure and it's private. It's just we prefer it to be in person if possible. I do understand now there's restrictions about around Klang, and we've had some clients were supposed to be coming this morning actually, and they couldn't make it, and then we had to reschedule it to be online. But we always prefer it to be in person. You can call me old school, but actually also the research shows that it's much more effective than online. Yes, yes. So so this can be. Oh, sorry. Let me go here. So this can be a session with Relationary at your choice. You can choose whenever you want to come with us. But we prefer you come with us first before you talk to Sheikh Hussain. Have Sheikh Hussain to talk to you after we talk to us. And then you set the appointment with Sheikh Hussain. Once that is done, then you can come for level 3, for session 1, session 2, and session 3. And I just wanted to say something also. Our team, even though we're not all Muslims, I mean, this is no different than going to see a doctor for gastric or blood pressure or anything. Sometimes we really don't look into their quote-unquote beliefs, right? But they are still professional. At Relationary, we always pick the best. We're trying to get always the best people out there. We strongly believe our team is very strong and very capable of helping you regardless of the religious differences. So we'd like you folks to take advantage of this as you are going to see a medical doctor or a dentist. It's not going to impact your belief. It's actually going to help. I've worked with many professional therapists and counselors that help Muslims to be better Muslims, and they don't even know about Islam. But actually that's what they work on. They work on the core, and they work on the reframing and the cycle of treatment, and that's how they are able to find themselves. That's what we do in therapy. So I invite you to reach out regardless of the person's spiritual beliefs. Any other thoughts or questions? We can end here if everybody's okay. Okay, the Sheikh is coming. Okay, so the Sheikh is going to come and give us a talk, conclude how we are about the program, and inshallah after that we have some laptops outside if you guys want to go ahead and register on the laptop, or you can reach your phone as well. You should be able to fill it up on the phone, but maybe it's better to put your phone like horizontal instead of vertical, because maybe it's easier to read white text. So we're looking forward to journey with all of you, or as many people as needed, and looking forward to journey with you to reach and maintain that flourishing state, inshallah. If you want to give me feedback on the talk, areas to improve, you can go to this website or this link. It's PEC. More than happy to take on board your feedback. Yes. Very good question. Are there any period when do we fill up this form? If you're here today, we would like you to submit the forms today. It's best. Or as soon as possible this week, which is today and tomorrow. But the sooner the better. The reason, I mean, there are reasons why we say this, but if you made a decision to come here, I strongly invite you to submit the form and move on with the program. If you want to submit it later, or if people who you know might be benefiting from this, that they're not here today, we can send them the same link. Would it be the same link for the recording, or a different link? Maybe a link inside that page that would take them on the recording. That's what I understood from you. Yeah.
Yeah. Inshallah, the recording of the session will be available on our YouTube channel. But as Brother Ammar suggested, inshallah, we will also include the link and the video on the website, on the landing page. Probably Relationary can do the same. Just just the link on the website. Inshallah. Yeah. So inshallah, it will be available. It should be easy to find on our YouTube page, on MHS website, or on Relationary's website, inshallah.
So if you know someone might be benefiting from this, you tell them to go to that link, and from that link they will hear what everybody heard, and they will take the next step, inshallah. Yes, sister.
Just want to ask, if I have someone I want to bring who is a non-Muslim.
Sorry, if you had someone?
To bring to Relationary who's a non-Muslim, will the approach be different for someone who's a non-Muslim?
Oh yeah, we see all races, we see all religions, we see all genders. There is no restriction. Yeah, please bring him aboard. More than happy to work with them. So we're a service that is open for everybody, not just Muslims. We are treating many different religions, many different races, and across the spectrum, basically, also across the ages, from child to I think the youngest child the youngest client we have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is 3 years old. So, but we can work also pre-delivery, pre-birth. We think that's really much better. Yeah.
If you don't mind me adding, that same goes to all the activities at Al-Khaadem. So if you have non-Muslim friends, they are especially welcome here, inshallah.
Yeah. Jazakallah khairan. Yeah. I mean, you would expect something like that from Al-Khaadem, right? It's awesome that they have this kind of support and services. So may Allah reward them for that. Any last thought or question? Sure. I'm sorry? Yeah. Okay. What's the first counselor? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. A coach has nothing to do with mental illness or mental health. The coach, I was a coach. I mean, my first certification for human development was a coach. So I know coaching. If you want to really get a good coach, you need to make sure that they're certified by ICF. I strongly believe that this is one of the best that is out there. It's an organization, it's a global organization that offer certifications to coaches. If the coach is not ICF certified, then you need to do the homework or just walk away from that person. Any coach who says mental, leave him alone. You need to let go of that person. You need to go to a mental professional. So a counselor, no one can be a counselor with a bachelor degree. It's a very good question. You reminded me to emphasize on that. No one can be a counselor or clinical psychologist with a bachelor degree. They need to have a master's minimum. No one can be a psychiatrist with a master's degree. They need to have a doctorate. They need to have a medical doctor degree. So be mindful of that. So once they say, I'm a clinical psychologist, please email me your certificate. And you need to do your homework. Again, this is not your kidney. This is not your heart. This is what controls your kidney and what controls your heart. This controls your emotion, controls everything about you. So you really need to invest in finding more about your guide in the journey of to flourishing. Very good question.
I think inshallah we will invite Sheikh Hussain
Okay.
To come.
I can get.
I think you can stay there inshallah. Sheikh will
Okay.
sit right beside you because you are the main speaker.
Alhamdulillah.
Alright.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to invite Sheikh Hussain to give the closing remarks for today's program, inshallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah hamdan kathiran tayyiban barakan fi. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'du. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
And for those who are not yet Muslim, we welcome you to our center, Al-Khaadem. Firstly, I would like to thank our chairperson, Brother Haris, and the team from Relationary, led by Brother Ammar, and all the doctors who are here with us today. Dr. Karen and all other doctors that I'm not aware about your names, but I've been following a bit inside. While I'm doing other things, I was enjoying the discussion, the sharing from Brother Ammar. We believe that all of us who are here today is because we care for each other. We want to be good to ourselves and we want to be good to others. And we believe that by working together as a team between Al-Khaadem and Relationary, we can help the people who need our help. I also believe that being a Muslim, our Prophet said, Al-Mu'min manfa'atun. A believer is a person who always brings benefit to others. It's not a self-centered person, just think about themselves, then that's not my problem. But we are here, we have been discussing with Brother Ammar and the team, just to see how best we can come and work together to help our people. Whether they are Muslim, not yet Muslim, it's the same. Being human, we all do face problems. Nobody can deny as a Muslim, especially, that we all have problems. To say that I have no problem, he have the most problem. People who don't acknowledge that he have problem is the most problematic person, because they are trying to hide everything by themselves. Because problem is part of life. Allah created us, He knows everything. And that's why He prepared a system, a guidance to show us how to face problem. Not to run away from problem, but be ready to face problem that we are going to face. And problem is very important to us as a believer. Problem actually is knowledge. Without problem, you don't know a lot of things. Through problem, you learn something more. More problem, more knowledge, more information. And we, Al-Khaadem, always highlight another term we use, that Islamic development through the Islamic point of view, we focus on BMS. Today is MHS. Well, we normally focus BMS, body, mind, and soul. Just to make sure that we honor the right of everything that God has created for us. The body have right upon you, your mind have right upon you, and your soul have right upon you. The food of the body, we know, is you must have a good nutrition, a balanced nutrition, to keep your body healthy. When your body is healthy, it's easy to develop healthy mind. And healthy mind always come from good information, knowledge. If we have the wrong information or the corrupted information that now we are exposed to, all this YouTube, Twitter, IT, it may cause more problem. We don't know who is telling what is right and what is wrong. Everybody is guessing today through the IT today. So the mental development, normally we always say, have the right knowledge. Whether there's mental illness, of course, people of knowledge will give you the right answer. And that's why Allah said, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ ذِكْرٍ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. As a Muslim, why we have this kind of talk over here? Because when you talk about treatment of the mental illness, sometimes Muslim, they have this kind of phobia, whether we should go to a not yet Muslim for treatment. Example, anything to do with medication, health. This knowledge is a gift from Allah Almighty to anybody who look for it. Even if he is not a believer, but if he had the interest to seek that particular knowledge, he embarked into that area, he will be considered as Ahli Zikr, a person who had that knowledge. You should have a doctor, health doctor. Anybody who have certain sickness, heart, you go to the heart specialist. It can be a Muslim, it can be just anybody. So this is what Islam emphasizes. When you have problem, make sure you have the right knowledge how to seek help, not just to anybody. So in the Quran, I was following some of the discussion Q&A session inside. Very interesting, talking about we Muslims always believe in the most important relationship is with Almighty God who created us, who knows everything, who sees everything, who knows what is the best for you. We, as human, our knowledge is very limited. And that's why Allah said, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Remember, above all the knowledgeable person, there will be somebody who is more knowledgeable than you. Nobody can say, I knows everything. Even our number one enemy, Shaitan, dare not say that. So you must be humble. So Allah remind us, وَابْتَغِي فِي مَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَى نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Meaning, you can have a good relation with Allah. It's very important for your akhirah. But don't forget about your dunya. We are living in this world. So it's very important to have a good relationship with Almighty God, have the right faith. And then it's also very important to know who we are, why are we here, and why Allah created so many people around us from different race, different tribe, everything God created for a reason. So that we know each other, we complement each other, we help each other. There is a spirit in the teaching of Islam. We are here to help one another. Lastly, because I don't have the intention to give a long lecture, we have listened to Brother Ammar more than an hour already. What Allah Rabbul Alameen, who created us, is reminding all of us. He who created us, who are aware of everything that we are going to face, He is telling us that the best among us, Allah is saying there are two types of people. One, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَقُولُ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا وَمَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَقٍ. A group of people just focus on this life. Everything good here, just here. Just think of themselves. Allah will give them. This is what you want. وَمِنْهُمْ, there's another group. مَا يَقُولُ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Oh Allah, give us goodness, happiness in this life. And goodness, happiness for the next life. And that's what we feel that is important for everyone to be connected. If you want good for yourself here, dunya, you must be good to yourself, of course. One, ku anfusakum. Save your soul. You must do that, of course. Don't keep on judging others, looking at others, but look into yourself. Do a lot of muhasabah, reflection. What do you want to be? You want good to happen to you. The same you want good to happen to others. You want to be respected. You learn how to respect others. It's like COVID-19 now. You want to play safe. You also must make sure you play safe to help others. At the end of the day, one of the very important hadiths that we always share among our student of knowledge is the saying of our beloved Prophet, who was sent by Allah as a mercy to mankind. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. He said, لَا ضَرَرَ وَلَا دِرَارَ. Meaning, to be a good Muslim, always make sure you don't say anything. You don't do anything that causes self-destruction. Overconfident can destroy us. Too passive also destroy us. Self-centered also destroy us. Just try to be in the middle. What's up? Don't say, don't do anything that may cause harm to yourself. You don't know? Ask. Asking is the key of knowledge. Be humble. Only the people who are humble, they will ask. Secondly, wala diral. Don't say anything or do anything that causes harm to others. This is the basic principle of our teaching in Islam. Always be good to yourself. At the same time, don't forget to be good to others. The situation that Brother Ammar was sharing was very important. All of us was born pure and clean, not corrupted. When we are baby, cute. Everybody look at baby. Everybody will smile and say cute, 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 all become cutie, cutie. But after some time, the cute disappeared. Naughty, naughty, naughty. You know, problematic, problematic. The situation changed them. Who are the one? The Prophet said, Abawain, parent, your environment. If you are not careful with your behavior, the way you talk to one another, the relationship you have as father and mother, wife and husband, then you see the children is going to be affected because of the situation. So that's why we are here to remind ourselves and to try our level best to help one another. Because Allah said, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Always be ready to help one another for anything that brings goodness. And also getting people closer to Almighty God who created us. It's important to know who is our creator too. Yeah? Sometimes people are overconfident. They say, I don't need God. But in reality, nobody can deny God. Even the shaitan, our number one enemy, he knows who is God. The only thing, he became a shaitan, he's a bit arrogant. No? Not to Allah, arrogant towards Adam, toward us. He's not happy with us. Anyhow. And then Allah also wants us, وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِسْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Don't ever engage in helping one another to commit anything that can bring to sin. And what is the thing? Hatred. Enemy. Don't do that. We have no time to create all this. We have enough enemy around us. It's time for us to look positively and try to think how we can be good to ourselves, good to our family, wa ahlikum, and good to others. So once again, on behalf of Al-Khaadem, we would like to thank the Relationary group who's here with us to work together to try to help our fellow Malaysian first, of course. I think because we are in Malaysia, and whoever who need our help. So may Allah make it easy for all of us.
Amen.
And for those who are here who know, who have the information, anything good is good to share with others. The rest we leave it to Almighty Allah Rabbul Alameen. Those who help themselves, Allah said, I will help them. Remember, don't just tawakkal, making dua without following up with what you have to do. You want to save yourself from COVID-19? Don't just make dua, oh Allah, save me from COVID-19, save me from, but you don't follow SOP. And then you will know what is going to happen. And the end of the day, it's not that COVID-19 come to you, you going to COVID-19. So COVID-19 have no choice except to say welcome. May Allah protect us.
Amen.
May Allah help us to help ourselves, our family, and others. So once again, I think there is a Q&A again. No?
Yes. So
A
is
short
there?
Q&A.
Yeah, just a short one.
Open,
If there's
yeah.
anyone,
If
so
anybody
since Sheikh is here,
Jazakallah
any
khair.
questions for Sheikh Hussaini? To the floor.
Alhamdulillah. No question because they all have got all the right information.
Alhamdulillah.
Shukr. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so if there's
Jazakallah khair,
no,
Shaykh. It's a pleasure, and alhamdulillah, we're grateful for Allah to have this opportunity, and Allah reward you guys for allowing us to be here and share some of the knowledge that Allah has given us. Jazakallah khair.
And lastly, because Asar also is in already, if you want to join Asar, please, you're welcome. When people were asking when can they sign up, anything good, Allah said, fastabil khairah. Anything good, be hasten. Brother Ammar said, best today or tomorrow. Then after this is the best. Yeah, don't always wait. Anything good if you wait. It's like when you have sickness. Tomorrow I take my medicine. Then you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe that medicine don't work anymore. Yeah, it's too late. So anything good, please, brothers and sisters, remember, good, be hasten. Don't wait. Yeah. If you fall in love with somebody, also don't wait. That person will just go to another person. Because he's waiting too long. You show no interest, they say, Alhamdulillah, I have to move on. So anything good, don't wait. Jazakallah khair.
right. So before we end, I would just like to remind the audience who are here, brothers and sisters, to go to our website, bit.ly/akmhs, to fill up the online assessment now, if you have the time, because like Sheikh Hussaini and Brother Ammar mentioned, it's best to take the action now. And if you need guidance, inshallah, we will have the team from Relationary who will be staying back. They have laptops outside as well. If you need help, if you're having trouble accessing from your mobile phone, so they are here and more than happy to assist you with the online assessment. So only after the online assessment, then you can start to join level 2, inshallah. So the details of level 2 and 3 is on our website. And if you have friends or family who missed this session, like I mentioned earlier, you can just share our video from our YouTube page on our website, as well as Relationary's website. And the online assessment form is also on the same website, inshallah. So with that, I will end with tasbih kafara. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.